Hello everybody, how you doing? This is going to be, thankfully for anybody watching, not a very long video. I'm just going to talk very briefly about the swing arm position on the Ducati Panigale V4R and the V4s. Just a quick explanation of what I found out, what I feel the differences are, because when I got my V4R with the adjustable swing arm pivot, I was like, what the fuck does that do? What effects it's going to have on the bike? I tried a couple of settings. Theoretically, I've tried 3 because I've got a 22 bike and explain where that pivot sits. So we're going to go in and have a look at the swing arm pivots. Okay, so V4R, obviously, swing arm pivot. Now, it's very confusing when this was launched. I seem to remember nobody knew what was going on. You got -3, +3, +1, and -1. And everyone's like, me included, where's the 0? And everyone's like, oh, the 18 bike must be the 0. But from measurements I've taken, if you compare this to the 18 bike, the 18 bike would be at -4. So the way this works, and the 18 bike is quite a bit different anyway, especially compared to the 22. The 0 is the center point of the axle, okay? And this is on a cam. And at this point here, -3 is pointing straight down. -1 is pointing down a little bit. +1 is pointing up a little bit more. And then +3 is straight up. This bolt here is a locating pin, basically. And what it does, this head has various holes in it. And when you line this up with the mark you want, this then locates into holes, stop the bolts rotating, which is on a cam, which will stop the swing arm moving. When you have it in -3, all other things being equal, this makes the bike very agile. It basically just lifts the back of the bike like that. And the bike is just very agile. It's fun to ride, easy to ride. I haven't tried -1 or +1, but I have tried 0 because the 22 bike is at 0. And what the 0 position does is it gives you much better brakes and much better on the throttle, but maybe not quite as good at turning. The +3, which I have tried, gives you amazing brakes, like properly, you can just brake on the apex. It is ridiculous and amazing on the throttle. You just hit the throttle and the bike just drives. It is phenomenal, but it is so hard to turn the bike. I imagine it's like, if you look at your hand, if it's -3 is here, so when you brake you're going to go over the top, or when you accelerate you're going to have a wheelie, but it's quite easy to turn it. +3 is sort of like that. So if you know anything about swing arm and thrust, so the back of my hand up to my knuckles is the angle of the thrust from the swing arm. So actually when it drives, it pushes the front down. It doesn't create wheelie. So you can see where you're going to get mega power from drive, because the bike's not going to wheelie, it's actually going to be more stable. And when you brake, the weight of the bike is going to push the front down rather than trying to rotate over it. It's sort of like, it's a lever more. But then as you can see, when it's that way up, the top of the hand is a bit heavier, so it's harder to get that bike over, and it's much more physical. And that is basically the long and short of it, of the swing arm position and how it works, how it affects the bike's handling. The 22 bike, this bracket here is at the same height as on the V4R. So theoretically, and I'm hoping to test this, these bolts that give you the adjustable swing arm pivot can go straight in the 22 bike. You can fit these bolts to the 18 bike, but you can't fit the side plates. The bolt goes through the side plate and into the engine case. And if you look at an 18 bike compared to an R or a 22 bike, the hole in the engine case is at a different height, because obviously a bolt can only go in a straight line. So if the plate is lower and the engine bolt on the inside is higher, you've got to come in at an angle, which won't work. But what you can do is you can fit these bolts, in theory, to the 2018 bike, and you can lift up to get to the -1 position. and I think maybe to the -3 position. Yeah, you can get to the -3. You can get to -1, and if you get to the -1 position, you're 1 millimeter away from the 22 bike, and 22 bike is excellent. Interesting to try the +1, which is what the new V4R comes at. So that should make the bike theoretically not quite as agile, but much better on the brakes, much better on the brakes, and much better on the gas. But these are all shades of grey. I had the bike in the +3, and basically at a track like Cartagena, if you look online, you'll see what that's like. My best lap was 0.7 of a second off the -3. But with the -3, I could do a 20-minute session, no worries. With the +3, I could do like 12 minutes and I was exhausted. So that's my quick viewpoint on the swing arm pivot and how it affects the handling and how that might work for you. You know, if you're really like Jorge Lorenzo, a high speed in the corner guy, you're going to want +3. Sorry, -3. Don't get that confused. And if you're more like Dovizioso, who's like hammers the brakes and mega on the gas out, then you will want the +3. But it's worth playing around with and see what works for you best. Enjoy.